Hey! So, how was your 3-day weekend? Did you do anything fun? I dug a hole for a pond. Not a big pond, koi pond. And I went for a run. We had some ribs. Played outside. Played some new board games. So that was pretty much my weekend. I can't wait to hear about y'all's. Our only meeting this week will be Friday for Friendship Friday. I can't wait to meet with everyone for student-led conferences on Wednesday and Thursday. If your parents have not signed up yet, it's not too late. So make sure that you are encouraging your parent to get signed up so that we can talk about summer goals, and then I can brag about you and talk about how amazing of a student you are and help you think about being a third grader. So, that's basically it. Where were we? We were in chapter 11, right? So the happy medium. Yep. So there was kind of a feeling of darkness coming, right? So, let's find out where we were. Goosebumps rose on Happy's skin, and claws sank deep into his heart. Panicked, he'd scrambled into the cave and stay there until the next day, too petrified to move. At dawn, Happy painstakingly collected each amber globe and lugged them all into the cavern. Couldn't have them shining out there, tempting the it to come investigate. Nothing to see there. Nope, this planet is just a lump of rock. Not worth the its time. That had been too close a call. Ever since then, he'd stayed inside as much as possible, slipping out only when absolutely necessary. Usually at night or on cloudy days. Ugh, what shall I look at today? Happy asked himself. He bounded from one pillar to another, finally landing on one in the middle of the circle of amber stones. As one wobbled, he reached out and with a feather-light touch eased it into a stronger alignment. There, that was just the right angle, and now it would be secure. On the plus side, there was no wind in the cavern to disturb his towers. Happy believed in looking at the positives. One had to balance out all of the sadness in the universe. Something happy, I think. Happy raised one foot to rest against his other leg and pressed his hands together in front of his stomach. There was the faintest rustle as his fingers brushed his silk waistband. Then blissful silence reigned. Closing his eyes, Happy concentrated. Two big brown pools blinked into view. Happy zoomed back until they clarified into the eyes of the furry otter. She was resting on her mother's tummy, both of them flooding in a cold inlet. The mother chatted at her, then used her paws to slick down the baby's fur. Wriggling, the baby nuzzled deeper into her mother, heat flowing between their bodies. Happy sighed in contentment. Unconditional love. There is no greater force in the universe. That's a good one to write down. Boom! Clink, clink, clink! Happy's eyes shot open at the sound of several amber globes crashing to the ground and rolling away. His foot stamped to the floor. What's that? Who's there? Which way? Happy whirled, scanning the cavern. Unpleasant sounds amongst my pleasant things. Flipping through the air, he grabbed hold of a beam and swung at it, outcropping. From there, he could see a group coming into his sanctuary. Uninvited guest. How upsetting, he muttered. Mrs. Whatsit, Mrs. Who, and Mrs. Which were each escorting a human child along the series of beams he'd arranged. The children's emotions were bubbling uncontrollably, setting Happy's stomach rolling. Children, they were not so calm. Resigning himself to a distressing visit, Happy strolled over. "Don't touch anything," he bellowed. All his precious globes, precious balance beams. He had the feeling they would not remain in place for long. Happy's predicament proved all too true. The humans were clumsy, not mean, but they slipped off beams and knocked over stones. It soon became clear the celestial beings had brought them here in search of the father of two of them, Meg and Charles Wallace. Happy would much rather have shown the girl frolicking poppies, but she was determined to seek her father. So Happy talked her through centering herself, and pushed his energy toward her, helping her open up her vision. Together, they traced the thread of Meg's love, bringing up an image of her and her father. Then how her father had tessered, the world around him wrinkling as he slipped through time and space. Meg waved, and the globes and rocks began to fall, shaken loose by her emotions. "Stay focused," Happy entreated. Redoubling her efforts, Meg concentrated, casting out across the universe to find where her father was now. Happy gritted his teeth as the pillars and the beams of his cavern continued to cascade down and the amber globes toppled. He could not blame Meg for being passionate. She had not yet learned how to control her emotions. The mission took precedence over his masterpiece. The room reappeared, Gotta get myself together. A blank room appeared, lit by a blurry violet light. Trapped within, Meg's father pounded against the opaque glass walls. Now they knew he was alive, but caged. There weren't enough details. Nothing to pinpoint his location. Try to see where you are. What planet? What solar system? Happy began. He guided Meg's mind to pull back, beyond the room, out of the building, out of the city, out, until they were suspended in space, gazing at a dark planet. Kamazoots. Yeah, it's that planet, and I've got to decode it every time. But that's what readers do, right? "No!" Meg screamed. With a pop, the vision burst, and Meg tumbled from the last standing beam. Happy dove to catch her, scooping her into his arms. He settled her on the ground, patting her head. He hated that he'd been part of showing her such terrible news. That it had her father. Yet Meg's next words were not about her troubles. "I'm so sorry. I broke your home," she said, gazing around at the shattered stalagmites and rubble. How sweet of her to be concerned. Happy felt Happy felt a gentle tug in his heart. Maybe children weren't so irksome. "I'll rebuild. It'll give me something to do," he said. Perhaps he'd shift the rocks so there would be a bridge to the outcropping on the far wall he'd always had to leap to before. Happy's mind began clicking through possibilities. "Or you could leave it be," Mrs. Whatsit said, as she and the others joined them from the rock overhang they'd been sheltering under. "Come out of the cave." "Maybe one day," Happy said. Not yet, though. He wasn't ready. There was still too much darkness out there. But maybe, if the children before him fulfilled the potential shining in them, maybe then, if the darkness was driven back, he'd watch a sunset again. Maybe with Mrs. Whatsit by his side, while Happy's abilities as a seer let him show people the universe. It was up to them to decide what to do with the information. Meg was pushing hard for a rescue mission, straight to Kamazoots. What a disaster that would be, Happy thought. Imagine going up against it with no training, no preparation. Mrs. Witch and the other wiser minds prevailed. They'd return to Earth, connect with Meg's mom, and come up with a plan. He waved farewell as his visitors tessered away. Once they'd vanished, he turned back to his caverns. Big mess, he said. Exhaling deeply, he set about writing the stalagmites, then adjusting and readjusting their placement. Happy had to stand back every few moves, analyzing the space from all angles. With minuscule tweaks and huge shifts, he slowly rebuilt his home. As he picked up an amber stone, he ran his hand along its smooth surface. It warmed to his touch. Maybe he'd just check in on them, see how they were getting on. Bracing himself for inevitable anxiety, Happy closed his eyes and pictured Meg, that brave, stubborn girl, full of spirit, whose heart was bigger than she knew. If anyone could find a way to undo the it, perhaps it would be her. Tomorrow we will read more about Chapter 12, Mrs. Witch. So does that mean that Meg and Charles Wallace and... oh, his name is escaping me. Calvin have to go back to Earth first? I don't know. Guess we'll find out tomorrow. Have a great day, readers.